we're going to take a look at the church in Pergamum. All right, and so I was kind of thinking, well, what's a good title for this sermon? And it's Negotiating with Evil. No negotiating with evil. Now, I'm from Cleveland, Ohio. I mean, Cleveland, Ohio is a great place to be from. You know, I do. I take great pride in being from Cleveland, Ohio. You know, Cleveland, Ohio, it's got different names. It's the America's North Coast. It's known as the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, the city of rock and roll. It's known as Mistake by the Lake. I mean, it goes by all kinds of different names. But I love Cleveland, Ohio. I was born and raised there. And coming out of Cleveland, Ohio, you've got to know I am a Cleveland sports fan. Right? I mean, go Indians, go Tribe, although now they're called the Guardians. But, go Tribe, right? And go Browns. You know, I'm a big Browns fan. Yes, I know I live in Tampa Bay, and I'm voting for the Buccaneers. But, I'm still, at heart, a Cleveland fan. But you know what? Cleveland fans, they're crazy. I mean, they are fanatical. I mean, I've got a friend who's had a season tickets to the Browns for over 30 years. And he wears the same T-shirt to every home game. I mean, the shirt is falling off of him, and it simply says, "I hate the Steelers." I mean, they are fanatical when it comes to sports. They really and truly are. And if you're an opposing member, so if you were voting for an opposing team, you would never wear the opposing colors in the stadium. I mean, you would never get out of the bathroom, right? I mean, so you never wear the opposing colors. You always fly the home team colors. In 2006, I moved to St. Petersburg. And I love living in St. Pete. What a phenomenal community it is that we live in. And I remember my first year here, I got my daughters and I said, hey, we're going to go down to Tropicana Field and we're going to see the Indians play. The Indians were playing Tampa Bay. All right, and so we're going to go see the Indians play the Rays. And my kids were all excited about it. They ran into their bedrooms, and guess what? They put on all of their Indians gear. They had the hats, they had the shirts. I mean, they were ready and raring to go see the Indians play. To which I'm looking at them going, ooh, no. That's not going to work. All right, because, we don't want to stick out like a sore thumb, right? I mean, we don't want to be flying the opposing colors, the opposing team's colors at Tampa Bay. And so then I made them go in and change, and we went to see the game, and much to my surprise, like 80% of the stadium was filled with Indians fans. The only place in the country where you can get that mix, because we all come from different places in the country. But I initially told my daughters, no, I don't want you to stand out. So go take the Indians' colors off. I don't want us to stick out. I don't want to bring attention to ourselves, because nothing good, no bueno, nothing good would come from that. Well, that's kind of the message that Jesus gave to the church in Pergamum. But Jesus was telling the church in Pergamum, they were beginning to blend in. And Jesus is saying, no, I don't want you to blend in. I want you to stand out. Now, the city of Pergamum is about 60 miles north of Smyrna. Remember, all of these cities are in about a 60-mile circumference of each other in modern-day Turkey. Okay, so Pergamum is about 10 miles away from the coast of the Aegean Sea. Today, the modern city is Bergamo, and it's a bustling, thriving city in Turkey today. Pergamum was one of the oldest and one of the most beautiful cities of the ancient world. Okay, it was built mainly of marble, and when people go to describe it, they talk about how magnificent, how beautiful this city was. This city sat on a hilltop, some 1,300 feet above the plateaus, and so everyone could see this beautiful city of Pergamum. Now, Ephesus was a commercial center because it was a port city. Well, Pergamum is about 10 miles away from the coast, and so they weren't so much a commercial city, but they were a political city and a religious city. In fact, Pergamum was the capital of this entire region for over 250 years. And so Pergamum would have been the Washington, D.C. of the ancient world. And once again, it sat on top of this Acropolis, 1,300 feet up. People would be approaching Pergamum, and they could see it. They could see this beautiful city. They could see all of these temples that were at Pergamum as well. See, it was a political center, but it was also a religious center for the pagan world. People from all around the region would come to Pergamum in order to offer sacrifices to the pagan gods. Like if you wanted a good harvest, if you wanted to make sure your crops were fruitful, well, you could offer a sacrifice to the god Demeter. And supposedly the god Demeter would make sure that you have plenty of food. If you needed wisdom or strategy, you would go to the goddess Athena and offer a sacrifice to her. Or how about this one? You know, if you just wanted to kick back and relax and have some wine and maybe watch the theater or just enjoy some festivities, you'd go to the Temple of Dionysius. Okay, the Temple of Dionysius was probably like modern-day Las Vegas or maybe even a spring break at its best type thing, or its worst. You know, and so you could go there and you could just get drunk and you could just revel in all of the festivities. Or if you were ill, you could go to the Temple of Asclepius, and there you could offer a sacrifice, and they would take you, and they would put you into this deep coma, and they let snakes crawl over you, all in the name of medicine. In fact, there was an ancient medical school right here in Pergamum. It's actually really kind of a little side note. The symbol for the Asclepius is a staff with a snake going around it. Well, modern-day caduceus, the modern-day symbol for physicians. But there in Pergamum also was a temple or an altar to Zeus. It wasn't a temple, it was an altar. Now, I want you to take a look at this recreation of the altar to Zeus. It sat 1,300 feet in the air. Okay, it was 117 feet wide, 110 feet deep, 40 feet tall. It was 4 stories tall. And when you look at it, it kind of looks like a throne, doesn't it? Where Zeus would sit. Zeus was considered the god of all gods, the king of kings, and the Lord of lords. And people would come to Pergamum to offer their sacrifice to Zeus. And there was constantly flames, and there was constantly smoke billowing up from the altar to Zeus. So you can get this sense that if you lived in Pergamum, especially if you were a Christian in Pergamum, there was a real spiritual battle going on. I mean, there was this tension always of who do we trust in? Who will provide for us? Who are we going to worship? I mean, as a follower of Jesus living in Pergamum, once again, you could just feel the tension that was brewing there. Because all of the city and all of the visitors would come to offer their sacrifices and to worship these pagan gods. And so here you were, I mean, just kind of picture yourself, a Christian, a follower of Jesus living in an overtly pagan culture. As a follower of Jesus, he calls us to be a light shining in the darkness, doesn't he? And when you have darkness and a light, I mean, the darkness cannot contain it, but that light shines brightly. But as a Christian, living in the midst of this pagan culture, I mean, just what if your child was sick? I mean, what if your child became ill? Would you take them down to the temple of Asclepius and allow them to try to make your child better? See, it was a daily question. It was a daily struggle. Do I follow the crowd, or do I stand out for what I believe? And that was the question that Jesus posed to the church in Pergamum. They were called to stand out, but in reality, they were blending in. They were called to be a light shining in the darkness, but they looked no different than the rest of the culture. They looked no different than anyone else. And so the letter that Jesus wrote through John to the church in Pergamum is in Revelation chapter 2, beginning at the 12th verse. To the angel of the church in Pergamum write, "These are the words of him who has the sharp double-edged sword." So once again, you've noticed over the last couple of weeks, it kind of has the same structure, right? To the angel, or to the minister, to the one in charge of the church in Pergamum, write. Okay? These are the words of him. So Jesus identifies himself. These are the very words of Jesus himself. The words of him who has the sharp double-edged sword.